got an amazing show lined up for you guys tonight. We are welcoming three incredible guys who I've got to know pretty well, and they are also out there on the YouTube and podcast verse, and they have a show called, in case you haven't heard of it, and if you haven't, you might be living under a rock, but it's called Hometown Ghost Stories, and I am welcoming to the show tonight Mr. Rob Coakley, Dave Wilkins, and Jesse Wilkins. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. Got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net and scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. How you guys doing, man?
We're so sorry that Dave could make it, first of all.
Well, we'll put up with him. I gave him a frame.
I get my own frame. I love it. I'm so excited.
It's like the Hollywood Squares over here, which is a little bit of foreshadowing as it turns out. But we're going to go through the night talking with these gentlemen about, I guess, a little bit about what they're doing and what they've been up to, as well as just all of the craziness that is the paranormal. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to this. This will be a good time. So, gentlemen, how long you guys been doing this? I know you've been on the show before, but just in case there's people watching that aren't familiar with you, give us a little background on this.
It's been 84 years, I think, now.
It feels like it. We've been doing the podcast for a little over 2 years, but as Rob said, it feels like about 84 years. The amount of time we put into this. It stacks up, but we love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but we've also been doing paranormal stuff since way before the show. This started years and years and years before. I think we went through the whole story at one point on your show.
Yep.
But yeah, we've been covering and going to haunted locations for, God, millenniums now.
You know, they say time flies when you're having fun. So if it feels like 84 years, what the hell's going on over there? I'm just wondering. No, you guys are awesome. I can't praise you guys enough. Not that my opinion matters a whole lot, but I really love what you guys do. I love all of the attention you put into every episode. I mean, each episode is really distinct and unique, and it's well done. You guys do fabricated video elements for each new episode, and I don't know how you guys squeeze that into just your life in general. On top of the fact that, you know, you're doing these shows and you're going out to locations, but it's incredibly, incredibly well done. I mean, my hat's off to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we make it work. I mean, it helps that there's three of us, so we're able to divide it up. It's not one person doing all the work, so it's not like we have one guy doing every single video. So each week we can do, you know, each person's going to take one location and cover the main story, record it, do their own video production, and then it's on to the next guy for the next week. So it does work up as there's three of us that are capable and can figure it out and make it work, because it's basically like having three different shows running, and then we'll all hop on and discuss and do our own research on it. So we're making it work. And, you know, it's hats off to a lot of the, you know, it's all about the listeners and the viewers, as you can attest to as well. If it wasn't for the crowd and the community that we've built, man, I don't know if we would have done it this much. So, like I said, we enjoy it, but it's, you know, it's all about building a community and having a good group, a good core of listeners that stay dedicated and make it fun every week. And, you know, you're another live show, so you understand how live chat can just keep the flow of the podcast going, and they can always have us cracking up and everything. So it makes it great.
The other good thing about us having three of us, to your point that you made earlier, is although we have a format that we follow, all of us have a different way of presenting the episode, right? So Jesse really gets into a lot of like the breakdowns on how toasters are made usually. Dave is phenomenal at making ghost stories. And then who knows what I do? Rob just wings it. Yeah.
I'm still waiting to see what Rob's good at. 2 years, we're bound to fucking figure it out. I don't know if I can swear.
I just let it up. I let it slip as well. Do you keep it PG on the show or no?
Well, I think tonight it can be
so no. All right.
NC-17. That's okay.
I'll try and dial it.
Because usually by minute 8, Rob has his pants off already. So it's running out of time here, folks.
Well,
Aerospace.
We're getting there. Now I got to ask you, just in terms of planning, and this is more me looking at your logistics than anything. Do you guys actually have episodes planned out weeks in advance to give you that window, or are you guys like me and you're just pasting this together right before the show?
For the most part, no. We kind of figure out what we're going to do kind of like last minute, and then we put it all together. But there are some episodes that are planned weeks in advance, like our big episodes. September and October, those are all planned out. Any of our locations that we visit in person, those are usually planned out. We got 2 big episodes coming up for Austin, Texas. We went down to Austin last weekend. So those are obviously planned out. But for the most part, we're kind of just figuring out as we go. Obviously, we have to figure it out a little bit in advance because we have to produce the entire episode. So, but no, we don't have a stockpile of episodes ready to go. We wish we did.
I know how you feel exactly. And sometimes I get lucky and get a lot of interviews and stuff, and that works out for the podcast. But, the YouTube stuff is just, it's kind of a mad dash and grab and just pull things together and hope it sticks. But you guys make it look easy, though. I mean, I don't want to make this about let's praise hometown ghost stories, but,
well, that's fine.
Please do.
Keep going. But you guys are just doing such an excellent job over there, and your channel is really growing really quickly. I'm really impressed by that. So, what have you been up to lately? What are the big things you guys have been doing lately?
Well, as Dave just mentioned, we just got back from Austin, Texas. So we went down there, a very haunted city. Did a weekend down there. Made it a point to visit absolutely every single haunted location that we could visit. Weren't able to investigate all of them, but we did multiple investigations at the Driscoll Hotel, which is where we were staying for the weekend, which is actually a really, really nice hotel, which worked out. Because sometimes you go to these locations and they're not the nicest hotels. They're usually pretty run down because that's why they're haunted, right? But that was actually a treat and a delight to stay there. The staff was really cool. They provided us with some exclusive stuff that will be airing on the episode. And then we also did a little mini investigation at the cemetery, which was a really cool cemetery. Unfortunately, the day that we were zipping around town on these scooters that you can rent, it was absolutely freezing in Austin, Texas. It was like the coldest day of the year for them. And of course, that's the day that we're literally on scooters just flying around town because that was the best and cheapest way to get around. But so we were freezing our asses off, but it was
well, luckily we're really strong and incredibly tan, so we were able to endure and get there.
That's right. Yeah. So we hit those. We had quite a few locations. The state capitol building is rumored to be haunted. We were actually able to get inside. Now, Dave and Rob went inside. I was loaded up with paranormal equipment in all of my pockets. And I'm like, I'm not about to take all of this out and go through a metal detector and explain why
we have a REM pod.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is funny because Dave actually, they pulled Dave out of line at the airport and was like, what the hell is this device? Thinking it could have been a bomb or something, but there was.
Have you seen a REM pod? What they look like?
Oh yeah, I've got one.
Yeah, it's like a cylinder with a little
it looks like a
little antenna.
Looks like a really big flashbang. Yeah,
yeah. It looks no bueno if you're trying to get it through TSA at the airport. Well, I had to explain that to him, but he's like, "They're doing what?"
But to Jesse's point, that Driscoll investigation, we can't really say much more, but the evidence that we have to share is very different than other stuff that we've had before, and I can't wait to do that episode.
Oh, do you have a target when we can expect that?
Yeah, March from Tuesday,
I think.
Yeah, March 5th.
Yeah, we're going to do 2 parts on Austin. So we're going to do Austin this Tuesday and cover everything but the Driscoll, and then for the next one, we'll do the Driscoll and maybe one other location down there. So we're just going to try to hit all of it.
That's fantastic. Wow. So you guys, when you're doing this, do you have a lot of luggage in terms of equipment that you bring, or do you usually pack pretty light, or what's that look like?
In that trip, if we're flying, we traveled light. So with that one, we just kind of took the necessities. And I went with just a backpack and had it absolutely jam-packed full of equipment. But if we're driving to a location, then we'll bring absolutely everything.
Oh, cool. Okay. And you guys are in what state?
We're in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, that's right. Okay, I'm geographically challenged, so I forget that stuff.
Well, so is Dave.
Get right along with
Great minds.
Yes.
But we get so many haunted locations around here. We got to go do the S.K. Pierce Mansion a few months ago. Ooh. That's up in Gardner, Massachusetts. We did the Shanley Hotel in New York late last year. I believe it was late last year.
Yeah, September.
So we've gotten to cover a lot of really cool haunted locations. We're doing New Orleans in September. We are doing the convention that's at Penhurst Asylum in May, which we did last year as well. So we're getting to see a lot of really cool places and cover them. And I specifically have gotten to check out a few extra places because I've been traveling a bit more. Mm-hmm. I just got to go check out the Albany Rural Cemetery. It's actually our last episode from Tuesday. We covered that. Very, very cool. One of the coolest cemeteries I've ever been to. Like, your listeners, if they're into cemeteries, look up the Albany Rural Cemetery. There's a ton of haunted stories. Probably go listen to our episode on it and hear about all the hauntings. But just in general, go look at the pictures, because I think socialites had a battle about who could create the biggest headstones in this cemetery. And there's like 15, 20-foot tall headstones all around. It is insane.
Wow. That's crazy. They're very old as well, yeah?
Yeah, the 1800s. Yeah. There's a president buried there as well. So it's very upscale, but there's also parts that are like run down. It's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I when you go to New Orleans, are you going to check out those cemeteries?
Absolutely. we have to go see Nicolas Cage's burial site that he already has prepared for himself.
Oh, he does? Oh,
yeah. Oh, buddy,
you got to look it up. It's he built a pyramid. Oh. Yeah, like a mausoleum pyramid. Yeah, it's amazing.
Did they have to?
It does not fit in with the rest of the gravestones in that cemetery. It's like all these like mausoleums and and tombs, and then you just have this pyramid just sitting right in the middle of it. It's completely white too. It's just it completely stands out. But yeah, he's got it planned out.
Did they have to bulldoze a bunch of other graves in order to make that happen, or how did that work?
So.
I mean, because those things are, they're old. I don't know if they're still expanding them or what, but I thought there was a very fixed amount of space in those.
If you look it up, it looks like he dropped it right in the middle of like a walkway. Like, it doesn't look like it's not in line with the other ones. It's just like really looks like it's inconveniently placed. But hey, he bought the plot. They sold him it, so he's got it all laid out for himself.
Wow, he's ready.
Yeah. Well, somebody will be dragging his body out pretty soon. I hear that happens a lot.
Pretty soon. What do you know?
Okay. We'll throw him in there, and the Declaration of Independence will be in there probably, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I think it's really cool that you guys get out and do this as well. Again, having the time and the ability to do that is an amazing thing, and it's something I'd like to do a lot more of. I've done some investigations, but you guys have really been all over the map, huh?
We've hit some really cool locations over the last 2 years. Some that people know, some that people don't know, and some that we went to expecting nothing, and then ended up being some of the more terrifying locations that we've covered. So,
to name a few, the Oliver House in Middleborough, that was one where none of us even really knew what it was, but it's a historical home right outside the Bridgewater Triangle, technically. Oh. But it was basically like right around the corner from all of us. Dave used to live in Middleborough. Rob was right up the street from it. We were all like within minutes of this home and never knew it existed. And we found out about it while doing a paranormal convention on the USS Salem. And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll go check it out. And we just never expected to get anything. And it ended up being one of our best investigations we've ever had. That one comes to mind. And then Lucy's Bridge up in Vermont. That was another one where like, yeah, let's just go swing by this bridge and get some footage of it. And then Emily's Bridge, not Lucy's Bridge. Sorry. Emily's Bridge up in Vermont. That was one where we're like, yeah, we'll just stop by tonight and go check it out, get some footage. And it ended up being another crazy investigation. So you never know with these things. And even if it's not the most haunted location, you might just be showing up right place, right time and catch some pretty cool evidence.
was going to ask you that. I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of times, these investigations is really hit or miss, and it doesn't really speak to whether a place is active or not. It's just more about whether it's active when you were there. There does seem to be some kind of biorhythm to the activity. Would you guys agree?
I would. And it's like people that are new at investigating, we're not veterans by any means. We do it as much as we can, but we're still learning as we go. I think a lot of people expect when they go into a haunted location, especially someplace like Penhurst or something that has like this big reputation as being one of the most haunted places, or you go to like Trans-Allegheny or any of those, you name them. But I think they expect it to be almost like a Halloween haunt where they go in and right away things are just going to start happening and you're going to see pictures shaking and doors slamming. And sometimes it's like you might be there at an off time, or you might have to be there for hours.
Yeah.
And then there's some places where you do get stuff right away, but people are impatient, and you really got to have patience with this kind of stuff and be able to analyze everything, and also not chalk absolutely every noise that you hear up to the paranormal, because you got to work to scientifically look at these things and debunk what could be just a natural occurrence and what might actually be paranormal.
Yeah, absolutely. I went, I had the benefit of going to St. Ignatius. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a old hospital up here that's long since decommissioned in Washington, or is it? It's in Washington. And it's a really, it's the epitome of the abandoned hospital from, the last century, early 1900s. And, the paint's just coming off in sheets on the walls and stuff. And when you walk into it, it looks like, oh, God, this is going to be a little sticky. And it was one of the quietest places I've ever been, really, And it was just, I was there over a period of 2 nights, but, you just don't know when this stuff is going to pop off or when it isn't.
We did an investigation at the USS Salem, and lots of people have gotten lots of evidence there, and we got nothing. The night that we went, we received very minimal. We didn't have enough to even show anybody anything, but that's part of it. You're not always going to get evidence, even if a place
we had
is
the whole
haunted.
boat to ourselves.
Wow.
The night. We got nothing. It was so disappointing. But like Rob said, that's part of the game, really.
It's even more disappointing because when you get a cool location like that, the footage that you get looks so cool. It's a giant battleship at night with the, it's just the pipes and just being inside of a ship like that. The footage is so scary looking. And you get the red lights that are the only sources of light in certain rooms, and the old hospital beds and everything. You're like, this is going to be the most badass episode of all time. And then we straight up just didn't air any of the footage because we didn't get anything. We're like, oh, well, that sucks. Maybe next time.
Oh, stock footage it is.
Yeah.
So you guys just talked about the history of it rather than compile an actual investigation video from it.
Well, we actually did our episode on the USS Salem before we did a full investigation on it. So we did an episode while we did a convention on it, and while we were there, we're like, all right, let's get footage and we'll knock out an episode about it. So we basically just talked about the hauntings. We did some spirit box sessions and some light stuff, but there was too many people on the boat. You had to rule out any kind of noise because it's all just noise contamination because there's a convention going on. So we tried a little bit, but didn't really get much on when we were there for the weekend. And then I think it was like October or something like that, we got the ship for an overnight investigation. That's when we did the actual investigation, but that was long after the episode came out. Had we caught some stuff, we would have done USS Salem Part 2, overnight on the boat or whatever. But,
oh, sure.
Yeah.
I just got to check with our chat. What Paranormal Portal exchange personal haunting experience or investigations from Ulysses the guitarist.
Ulysses is one of the greatest.
Yes.
One of the greatest, yes. But that is literally what we're doing right now. So he got what he asked for.
Yep, you got what you asked for.
We're exchanging paranormal stories, yeah.
So of all your investigations, what would you say are your top 3? You named a couple already. I don't know if those are your top, or I should say most active locations. Were there others that really stand out to you guys?
We're going to leave Austin off the table since we haven't aired the footage there yet. So we're not going to count Austin yet. It may be our top 3. It may not be our top 3. Tune in March 5th and find out. What I would say for me, I'm just going to steal this and answer it first, would be Emily's Bridge, the Oliver House, and the S.K. Pierce Mansion would probably be the 3 that stood out the most to me, just in terms of one of them, the S.K. Pierce Mansion, is relatively known, right? Like, I think a decent amount of people know that place. Emily's Bridge, not as well known. It's up in Stowe, Vermont. And like Jesse said, we went there. I went there thinking the entire story was BS on that bridge. And we had something happen there that it's never happened before or since, really. And the Oliver House, we were like, how do we not know about this house that's 15 minutes from us? It can't be that haunted. And you find out the history about Benjamin Franklin being there and some of the history that happened after he was there with the family, some very big tragic events with family members passing away. And then it's the only place I ever got touched for an investigation. So those will be my three by Dave.
No, yeah, got that one on camera. It was, a scratch, but I agree. I think in terms of the investigations that we've done, I mean, we didn't really count it for the show, but we did a ton of investigation at Rob's old house, which is in the Bridgewater Triangle. And that place, we got easily the most insane haunted happenings because we were able to investigate it 50 times. There for Robus every night,
50 times a minute for me.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we were able to investigate it basically every Friday, Saturday night. We're like, yeah, let's just go investigate Rob's house again because that's fun and it was something to do. But those were fun. As for locations that we visited, I mean, the Conjuring House was a big one. So that's one that most paranormal groups, have on their list or have been to. Mm-hmm. I would love to do it again, but do it differently. We did that one there was like a company that was putting on the ghost tour or ghost hunt or whatever. So we did legitimately get it overnight. It was just, there was too many people in the house. The house is really small in real life. It's not, so if people have seen the first Conjuring movie, this is the house that movie was based off of. It's nothing like it is in the movie. It's a tiny little house, tiny little farmhouse, and it's, the walls are super thin. The floors are super, super thin. If you're in the basement, you can hear conversations going on the top floor. So noise contamination was a huge problem. The people that were running it, there was some of them were awesome, and then there was a couple. There was just one dude who was an absolute tool, and he was just kind of faking stuff, and it just ruined the whole thing because it's like, okay, thank you for the prank, thanks for the laughs, but we're really trying to do something serious here. We're really trying to do some investigation, but the guy was just he was a massive tool, and that was what he did. So I would love to go back and actually rent the house out with just a small, very, very small team, probably just the three of us, and do that house again, because while the investigation was fun and we got some cool stuff, group was too big and kind of took things out of it. But with that house, I mean, I remember going back into it after we had wrapped up. At this point, the sun's coming up. It's like 5:30 in the morning or something like that. I'm like, all right, let me go back through and just make sure I got pictures of every single room because I want to make sure that we don't blow this opportunity. And when I went back into that house, I was all by myself, and it was absolutely terrifying. And it was so much different than when we had a big group of people in there. So I definitely feel like there's something evil there. We did catch some cool evidence, but I'd just like to approach it differently if we were to do that again.
Yeah. For me, so ditto on Emily's Bridge, ditto on Middleborough there, that house.
Yeah, Oliver House, yeah.
But I feel like we always forget about the Houghton Mansion. All those years ago, out in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires, we got some of the best evidence. We had the door slamming on cue. Ooh. It was a French door with plate glass, and you could see through it, obviously, and it was open, and we'd ask whatever was there to shut the door, and it literally would slam the door on cue. We got it twice, once with a countdown. Crazy. We have the video online. It was one of the most, we couldn't explain it. One of the most inexplicable things we've seen. And then when I was investigating one of the rooms, I was trying to get whatever spirit was there to respond to me. And at the time I didn't hear anything and I was frustrated, whatever. We went back and reviewed the footage. Every time I asked for a response, there was a subtle banging that we could hear in the background of the audio, which was really cool. So we had one piece of evidence that was in front of us all. We saw it happen with our own eyes. And then another one that we found after the fact. This was a great location that you can't actually investigate anymore because the building's condemned. I believe they shut it down since then, but wild.
It was a black mold situation, but that was outside of investigating Rob's house. That was like our first real investigation. We had just reached out and we were filming. It wasn't Hometown Ghost Stories yet. This was years and years and years ago. we had a different idea for basically the same thing, but we had approached it differently. And I remember there was a situation, Rob was up in one of the bedrooms and each of us had like a challenge or whatever. Either way, what it ended up with was Rob was laying on the floor doing his investigation. Maybe he was tired or just being Rob, but I mean, there was the loudest like slam that we heard. It sounded like if you were to take like a Bible and just stand next to someone and just throw it down on a wooden floor. That's what we heard on the camera and or in the footage. And you see Rob react to it. Rob jumps up so fast he actually knocked over the table that was holding the camera and everything like that. So we definitely got that. That was a wild night, and it was. I wish we were more equipped with better equipment, but like I said, it was just we were early on in the game. We really know what we're doing. But,
well, it's funny though, right? Because we have all the good equipment now, but back then we just had what, like a spirit box and a voice recorder or whatever else we had. Yeah.
We showed up with so much nothing.
Yeah, we had so much information or so much evidence there, and
it was funny because we drive out there. First of all, we're like, all right, we got to be there by like noon. So we meet up at like, 10 or 11, and then we plug it into the GPS, and we didn't realize how far away it was. So we're in Massachusetts. We're on the East Coast, right near the beach. And we plug this thing, which is also in Massachusetts. We figure tops this place probably an hour away. We throw the GPS, it's like 3.5 hours. We're like, oh my God, we're idiots. Yeah. We call them up, expecting them to be like, never mind, don't show up. But they're like, yeah, whatever, show up wherever you can. So
yeah, we showed up at like 7.
Yeah, we were late. We get there, and we're like, all right, equipment check. All right, we got like nothing. We got 3 things. We had a spirit box and like 1 video camera. We're like, all right, we're going to Walmart. And thank God they had a Walmart. And we went there and we got flashlights, and we got flashlights, walkie-talkies. We got 2 voice recorders. They actually had a surprising amount of stuff and kind of bailed us out. Because the last thing we wanted to do after driving all across Massachusetts is show up to their front door and then be like, okay, where's your stuff? Like, oh, we got this. We just look like idiots. But we pulled it off, and hey, with minimalist stuff and last-minute Walmart equipment, we end up getting some of the best evidence we ever got. So
you got to start somewhere, man. Like that's where it is. You start somewhere. That's where we started. Yeah. Got away from it for a little bit, but the idea was always there. We would always kind of talk about it, and then we just were like, you know what? Let's just do it. And just go from there. And we started with the Bridgewater episode, and that episode was crazy because it eventually went around in the Bridgewater like Facebook groups and stuff. And somebody reached out to me, and it ended up being the woman that bought my grandparents' house, telling me haunted stories from the house now. And it was stuff that I didn't even share in the episode. That we also had experienced, because I always try to justify those hauntings. So it's just really crazy. But that was a very cool justification when that message got sent to us.
Bro, we've been talking about it off stream for months. We got to set something up. Got to bring you out. I'm sure your audience would love to see. See you on a collaboration investigation. We got New Orleans in September. You're welcome to come down, or we should plan something else.
That would be brilliant. I love New Orleans. I think, of all cities in the U.S., everybody thinks of New Orleans when they think of hauntings and stuff. And I'm sure that's well earned, So there's so much history. Just thinking when I started, I just had a K2 meter too. That was it. I had a K2 meter and a flashlight. But I was going to ask you about the Oliver house, because you said you kind of stumbled onto it. It's like right next door. Do you have plans to go back, or have you gone back other times?
We haven't gone back yet, but we do have plans. We tried to go back another time, and we couldn't make it happen because they had booked up. But yes, short answer is yes, we do plan to go back.
Yeah, I think those kind of locations are amazing, where you can find them. And since it's lesser known, I think there's something with, like, the bigger places, like you mentioned Penhurst, and I was talking about St. Ignatius, where they get this pretty steady stream of traffic through there. So, I don't know, but I suspect that somehow diminishes the amount of activity you can expect, because, there still may be presences there, but I just don't think that they're as likely to come out and entertain you when people are coming through their nightly, especially during the Halloween season, which is about when I went out there to St. Ignatius, there were people booked every night, teams and teams coming through. And I mean, if I was a ghost, I'd be like, screw this, I'll just hide in this, brick or whatever. I don't know where they hide, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be, Pennhurst in particular, should be haunted every moment that you're there. I mean, like, that place is widely regarded by a lot of experts as probably the most haunted place on the planet. Like, it has every reason to be. You have thousands of people that died there. So much misery and abuse that went on there that it's just like, if any place is going to be haunted, it's got to be that place. So we didn't really get a chance to fully investigate. Actually, we didn't really get a chance to investigate at all. We were just there for the convention for the weekend. So I would love to actually do like a legitimate investigation. There's just too many people there. There was thousands and thousands of people at that convention. And they did have this little thing where it's like you could pay $7 billion to go do a ghost hunt with the cast from Ghost Hunters. And we're like, that sounds cool. But it's like, we saw them. I mean, first of all, we didn't do it. We're like, that's just, we're not going to get anything good with a group of people but we saw them lining up as we were packing up. And there's like 200 people going on this ghost investigation in the Mayflower building. And we're like, this is like, how can you conduct a proper paranormal, I guess, investigation with this? It was more so, pay for a ticket to hang out with the celebrities. But actually, Steve Gonzalez from Ghost Hunters, who was at that event, I just finished his book, and he talked about all of his investigations that he's done at Pennhurst. And he himself says, like, Pennhurst is the most haunted place that he's ever been to. And obviously, the Ghost Hunters cast has been all over the world doing ghost investigations for years. So I think he's a pretty credible source when they talk about that one.
The one pushback I'll have, Brent, is I used to think the same way. Like, if all these people are coming through, then it must be diminishing it.
Right.
But I don't think so, because we went to the Shanley Hotel, and that one it's not the Stanley. Like, people like confuse it with the Stanley. The Shanley's in New York, but the Shanley basically operates just as a haunted location, like these other ones. And it's actually beautiful inside too. We were shocked at how nice it was inside the building once we got there. But they're doing investigations basically nightly, and we still got some really, really good evidence while we were at that particular location. So I really just think it's timing and
probably how you approach it as well.
Yeah, that was where it's going with that. Being in tune with it a bit, as well, and taking it seriously and understanding what you're looking for, which is something that we are constantly learning. Right. It's just like anything, though. You should be learning every time you do it. Once you think that you know everything, you should probably stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good point. And this is something that I've held as and I think many others have too. I don't believe that I came up with this theory, but it seems to me the more people do things like investigating stuff, perhaps the more sensitive you get to the energies in locations like that. Would you guys agree that as you've been doing this, well, Rob, you kind of grew up in a place like this, so maybe for you it's just always been, or maybe you're not sensitive, I don't know. But do you guys find that as you're doing this, you're becoming more aware of, like, God, I got a feeling in this room, or more of that, at least an empathy for where you are?
Yeah, you get that, but go ahead, Dave.
For me personally, and I came into this as like the hardline skeptic, it's less, I don't really get more of like a feeling when I'm in a location, but I have a better understanding from hearing different people's stories and reading about different theories and reading about different ideas and possible connections with other dimensions and other spirits and whatnot. I have a better understanding of what this is all about, and it's less of a I won't say that it opened me up more, but it opened up my mind more. I'm more accepting. So now when I walk into a haunted locate or a potentially haunted location, I'm less shut off, right? Now that I understand where other people are coming from and what some of the ideas behind it could possibly be.
You also got to approach each situation differently. So it's important to do your research. You can be kind of careful with it, because if you're researching a location and says that, okay, if you go and look in the mirror and flash the lights really fast, you might get a ghost behind you. Then you go into that location, that's the only thing you do, right? It sounds stupid. That was just an example. But if you have your mind set on, okay, here is how I get ghosts to play trick on me, maybe it's a whole different approach. Maybe maybe the source is bad. Maybe the ghost doesn't do that anymore. So it's like you got to kind of feel out the situation, know the history of the location, and a lot of these paranormal happenings, like they're not show ponies. They're not just gonna like, oh, let's go perform a trick. We have more visitors. Let's go do our tricks. Like sometimes you get. I've been trying to do this more with investigations. Is try to have a conversation with an entity or whatever might be in that building, more like I would have a conversation with a real person. So you don't just walk in and be like, who are you? Who is here? You know, it's like someone walks into my house and be like, get out of here. Like, I'm not talking to you. Why are you acting like that? Yeah. You know, so I would have a conversation. Like, introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about yourself. And it sounds goofy when you're sitting here talking to an empty room, but if you're actually trying to make contact with a spirit or something that used to live there or something that doesn't even know it's dead, then introduce yourself like you're walking into a stranger's house. Be like, hey, how you doing? I'm, came to visit and I'd love to have a conversation with you. So it's just, you want to change your approach. It might be different in each location depending on what you're dealing with.
And other people are different too, because that point you bring up about feeling, I would say out of the three of us, I'm more of the feeling guy because we've gone to locations and I've walked into a room and I just get this, it's just, I don't even know how to describe it sometimes, this feeling that I get. It happened, I noticed it the most at the Oliver House, and then retroactively, I started thinking back to other locations we went to, and I'm like, oh shit. Oh shoot, sorry, we're on Paranormal Portal, not Hometown Ghost Stories. But I walked into a room there. So what happened at the Oliver House is when we go to a location, we try to get there before nighttime so that we can start getting what's called B-roll footage and stuff and stock footage of the location, walking through it, just getting, video of the place itself. And we went there and we were doing that. And I was on the first floor and I thought that Dave and Jesse were on the second floor getting stuff. So I walked up to the second floor after I finished some of the first floor stuff, and walking through, I realized I was there by myself, and I walked into this room and I just got this utter pit and like this very like gross, like I just felt real off, real heavy. And as we were doing the tour with the tour guide, I was like, when we got to that room, after I ran out like a scared little child and found the group. But as we're doing the tour, I'm like, can you please tell us about this room? I got a feeling. And she's like, oh, that's interesting that you got the feeling in this room. And then she told us the story of that room, and it kind of all checked out after that.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've noticed the same thing. That the more that I go to these locations, the more that I feel, at least I feel like I'm more tuned in, and I don't know, it doesn't always pan out, but I like the comment that you made about these things not performing, because I think when you look at our popular culture with ghost shows and stuff, it's like, well, they go to a location, they set up equipment, and God, things just happen. And that's just the way it is. And it creates maybe an unrealistic expectation. Then you go and you might be sitting in a dark room for hours and nothing happens. And if you walk out with any kind of EVP, that's a good night, and I think there's a big divorce between a lot of people's expectations versus the reality of it. You just may not get activity.
Right. Well, you also got to keep in mind that two things. Number one is, and you know this obviously, but they're condensing an entire night. Sometimes with certain ghost shows like Ghost Hunters, sometimes they'll go for an entire week or two, and then you're seeing a 44-minute episode on what they caught over the course of 2 weeks. So they're there every single night doing these investigations for hours and hours and hours. So yeah, it seems like, wow, they went right in and they got all this stuff within 44 minutes. That's crazy. Now I'm going to go investigate this place. I'm going to get stuff right away. And it's just not the case. It's just, you got to remember, you're looking at a condensed version of those investigations. Same thing with our episodes as well. Our episodes will run 15 minutes, but we're there for an entire night, sometimes 2 nights at locations. So what you might get in that video really is a summarized version. And then the other thing with network TV is certain shows if they don't get something at a location, they might just be faking stuff. You never really know when it comes to network TV. So you got to kind of take those with a grain of salt, because you got to remember, it's still TV. It's still entertainment. They're still looking for the next season. It's their job, and there's going to be ratings involved and stuff like that. And if they do back-to-back episodes with no evidence whatsoever, that's just bad TV. So You never know with these things. I'm not saying certain shows fake it or whatever, but I wouldn't rule it out, especially with a lot of these YouTube channels with these quirky kind of investigation pages and stuff. So you got to be careful with it.
Yeah. We got a question from Ulysses the Guitarist. It says, how would you perfectly prep for an investigation?
Get a lot of battery life.
3 bottles of whiskey for you, Dave.
Batteries.
Fine.
Yeah. Charge your stuff and bring extra batteries, because we talk about it all the time. Every single investigation, I believe it's something paranormal, that they will drain your equipment. I think we've actually talked about it on this show before. Like, your equipment's going to go dead, because the theory is, spirits are going to use that energy to manifest or create some sort of a haunting. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a pain in the ass, because you need to get a whole bunch of new batteries and plug in your cameras immediately when you get there again, even though you charged up before you left. It's just every single time we've ever done an investigation, it seems to be the case that everything just dies right away. So bring backups and get ready to charge up your stuff.
Where were you? Where we actually just got mad?
That was Pierce Mansion. I was like, it wasn't just the batteries. So it was like everything died. We're like, oh, here we go again. This is a pain in the ass, because we're on a time limit here, right? It wasn't one that we had for 10 hours. It was one that we had a few hours to get everything that we needed to get done. And everything was dead right off the bat. And then it was also the memory cards. So out of all of the cameras that we got, most of the footage that we ended up using was cell phone footage, because 2 night vision cameras, both of the memory cards corrupted. The 2 HD 4K cameras that we use, I have a pile of memory cards. I showed them on stream, actually. Ulysses, I think, who just commented in chat, he had commented, I think he does some sort of photography or whatever, or somebody that was in chat. And when I showed the pile of SD cards that we had that all got corrupted, I cannot use a single one of these things anymore. That was all of our footage. So all of our night vision footage gone. It wasn't like, wow, look at this cool thing that happened. This is paranormal. It was just an absolute pain in the ass. That's what it really was. And it happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Eric says, can't you bless your equipment so ghosts can't drain them? I'm going to bring a priest, and I hope that's not a joke. I hope it's serious, because I'm looking for answers. I'm sick of this.
Yeah, I agree. I've often wondered about Faraday cages, if you could build some kind of Faraday cage around equipment that you could still film and stuff and operate, but be a shield to that EM interference or whatever. But yeah, I think that's interesting.
I do wonder, though, if you do that, are you jeopardizing the idea that your camera might catch something paranormal by doing something like that, though?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a possibility. I mean, are they a visual anomaly, or is it an EM anomaly that somehow the camera captures, because it may stimulate some of the light spectrum we don't normally see? That's those are all possibilities, I guess. But
could be good and bad, though. Hey, my camera worked all night, but I caught nothing. So
just drinking whiskey.
Your batteries are fine. Your batteries are fine, though. Let's go to the next question. Chucky Danger, do you think spirits can have attachments like alive people?
Oh, what, like spirits attaching themselves to each other?
Yeah, or is it possible like a human spirit could maybe have a dark attachment still in the afterlife from, something that may have happened?
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry.
No,
I can't stop.
Don't bother now.
I never thought of that, though. That's interesting. So if you're alive,
right,
and you're possessed by a demon,
and
a demon attaches itself to you, and you subsequently die, is that spirit, that demonic spirit, still attached to your spirit in the afterlife? That's a crazy question that I had never even considered.
Yeah, I mean,
wouldn't that be frustrating if, like, you're possessed and you die and that's what happened, and then you come back as a ghost? You're like, all right, well, at least I got rid of that demon. Oh God, he's still here. Like, come on, give me a break, man.
That's a great question, and I haven't heard. I mean, how would you hear? How would you hear a story like that, right?
Well,
because
interestingly enough, I've heard some mediums suggest that there are some dark entities, possibly demonic or otherwise, that may tag people, and then after they pass, they are kind of yanked to the demon rather than going through the tunnel or whatever and passing on, like they're tethered somehow. And I thought that was interesting, and maybe it's kind of the same concept, really, as an attachment. So I don't know. It is an interesting question, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea with certain types of ghost wraiths and stuff like that, where they just kind of lie in wait. But you have, or I think it's the Revenant that, now those are like zombies. I'm confusing my ghost types, but that's a possibility. Then you hear it in certain hauntings as well. I believe it was the Whispers Estate, where there was like a spirit of a little girl, but behind that little girl always seemed to be something bigger and darker that was lurking with them. And it sounds like maybe that big dark demon or whatever it was still attached to that little spirit. So I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a crazy thought, Chucky. Thanks for asking. Glades Creatures ask, any Fresno night crawlers or walkers reports, explanations? Do you guys familiar with that one? The Fresno Nightcrawler?
Nope. I'm familiar with creatures crawling around Fresno, but that's a different kind of creature.
Well, these are cryptids actually, but allegedly, but basically it's an old video that was around for years and years, and it looks like I don't know if it was from Fresno, I guess, because it's called the Fresno walkers or night crawlers, but I think it looks like a pair of pants walking around. Like it's just these legs with like the midsection. And to me, it looks like a marionette. I'm sorry. I can't get behind that one personally. If I'm right in what you're asking, Glades Creatures,
it unfortunately looks really goofy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, if it's a real haunting, if the footage is real, then it's great. It's just, it really looks like a pair of legs. It just, I don't know, the shape of it is goofy, but I mean, if you see that and you don't have an explanation for it, it's no longer goofy.
Right.
We were just talking about it last week with the cemetery we were just talking about in Albany. There's a haunting of an old man who's wearing like his old 1800 style pajamas. And it's just, you think about that and you're like, that sounds silly. But if you see it, it's no longer silly. That is terrifying. And this would be terrifying too.
It would be, except when you watch the video, it really does look like if you took an empty pair of pants, suspended them by the waistband, and then attached like strings to the end of the legs and lifted them up and simulated walking. So it's like they don't bend like a leg or like anything's in them. It's just like this, this wrinkly fabric going up and down as it's being budged along. So I don't know. I mean, could it be? Yeah, I guess anything is possible. But it's just one of those at first blush. It's like, I just can't get behind this one. I mean, there's just nothing there. It's just these pants walking around. So, but there is things like blemmies and stuff, which are also really strange, that are allegedly a real creature, at least legendarily, which are basically, it's a torso with legs and arms, but the face is actually on the chest and gut.
I can't wait to start digging into some more cryptids.
Yeah, we're very fresh. We do side content as well.
Sure.
Our main episodes are always going to be focused on ghosts and hauntings. Again, we cover, just for your listeners that don't know, our main episodes, we pick one town or city and we only cover the hauntings or one big haunting in that town or city. But we dive into side content and we start talking about cursed possessions. We talk about celebrity hauntings, but we've also started diving into cryptids. So I might actually see if me and Jesse can replace Dave with a Fresno Nightwalker at some point.
Yeah.
Probably drinks less.
I gotta say, I can't stop watching the footage now, so I got that on a different screen right now. It absolutely looks like someone in a costume, just walking goofy like what's the Monty Python skit? Silly Walks?
Silly Walks.
I mean, if it's actually something paranormal, it's terrifying, but this is just, it looks like someone in a costume.
Another question from the chat. From Rachel Gets It Right. Do you think when people say they witnessed apparitions in graveyards that ghosts are drawn to the residual energy radiating off the bones of the dead buried in the ground to refresh themselves?
I don't know if I've heard about anything that suggests that bones give off residual energy. Mm-hmm. I've never heard about that. I know that energy will leave your body in the form of heat when you die. Mm-hmm. And I know that, but I've never heard, I know that energy can be stored in certain kinds of stone, but I've never heard anything about residual energy emanating off of dead bones.
Yeah, I would assume that would be more so tied to the location that somebody died at. So if people died in the cemetery, then I wouldn't rule it out, but I think that energy would be leaving their body wherever they actually died, which is why I think there's a lot less haunted cemeteries than you might think. Mm-hmm. So typically you would see a graveyard like, oh, that's creepy, that's probably haunted. But more times than not, most cemeteries, there's 1 billion cemeteries in the United States alone. Most of them are not haunted. Some of them are. And we actually talked about it again. We talked about it last week, which was the Albany Barua Cemetery has a strange heightened amount of suicides that happen at that cemetery, which is, I think, that's more of the reason why it's haunted. People just showing up to their loved ones' graves and taking their lives there. Very sad, very unfortunate. But when you have, it's like a double whammy, right? So it's the cemetery, they're tied to that location, and now they died there as well. I think that could definitely do it. But I mean, you can't rule it out, though. I think it's possible.
Anybody else?
I was going to bring up the point that Jesse just brought up, and as we were talking about it, I was thinking about the people that were buried alive and their residual hauntings in graveyards, and that must be the worst, right?
Sure.
I don't know if we'll ever see them, but maybe that's some of the cemeteries that are haunted as well, just hauntings of people that were buried alive on accident. And I think it really depends in terms of the cemetery and what happened in that particular spot. So I don't think that you haunt a place because you're buried there. Personally, we don't make the rules. We always say we don't make the rules. Maybe you do.
You could, and there has to be some sort of energy that still comes off of a dead body, even after. I mean, you have cadaver dogs that can sniff out bodies 50, 60, 70 years after they pass because of the bacteria that forms, particularly in the bones of humans. That's kind of how cadaver dogs work. So you got to be giving off some sort of energy, right? So I would say yes.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Ulysses the guitarist comes back with, would you rather battle 100 ghosts or one demon?
100 ghosts.
Yes. Yeah.
What kind of ghost are we talking?
Just the pants ghosts.
Oh, okay. Then yes.
Fresno pants ghosts, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, those things crack me.
Just bring an iron.
They have no arms. It can't be that hard in sight, right?
Yeah. I think probably you could outrun.
I bet they run pretty fast, though.
You think so?
According to that footage, no, they walk really silly.
Yeah. It's really just like a marionette. It's pretty crazy. Let me just see if there's any more in here. I did want to ask you guys about different pieces of equipment. Do you guys have any structured light cameras, that shows the stick figures or anything like that? Do you guys utilize those?
They're kind of hard to come across. So you can build those. You can kind of construct them yourselves with the old Xbox Connect things.
Yes.
There's other apps that do it, like the GhostTube app, but I really think it's nonsense. Like with that one, it just seems to pick up, and I'm not saying anything about anyone that chooses to use that, but it doesn't strike me as authentic.
Sure.
Because it just kind of picks up on human shapes in absolutely anything. Like there's be a pile of books, and if they happen to look like it has a head and shoulders, it's like, boom, anomaly detected. I don't know if it's really picking up on anomalies, but the Xbox Connect ones are cool. And I did a lot of research. I'm like, I want to figure out how to build this thing myself. So I don't know if they've evolved the technology at all. I would love to use like an SLS camera.
Yeah.
In investigations, we just haven't had the means to construct them.
Yeah.
Because you also, you can't just grab an old Xbox Connect and plug it into an iPad. You have to get an iPad that still has like Windows 7 on it or something like that. Like it can't be a newer version. Maybe it's changed since I looked into it, but when I looked into it, I was like, these are way too many steps. So unfortunate. Do you have one, Brent?
No, I don't. My friend that I research with, Charles Howard Johnson, has one. And we had a really cool thing happen, and it'll be in an upcoming video that I'm going to release. But when we were doing the St. Ignatius thing, we were also staying at a haunted Airbnb. And it was pretty well known to be haunted. And I'll tell you that the activity there was way over. It was crazy compared to what St. Ignatius was, which was totally backwards. I thought it'd be totally different. But I put out my REM pod first, and it was just going crazy in this kitchen area on an island. But it wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop. It was just whining and screaming, and the lights were going crazy. And I was like, God, something wrong with my REM pod. Well, then Charles went and got a couple of his, basically the same technology, just different builds. And he put those out, and they started screaming. We're like, all three of our devices were screaming. So I turned it off, and I got one of those yes-no pyramids with the green light on one side and the red light on the other. And I put that up. And the side towards the kitchen sink was just going off constantly, but the other side not. So I thought, well, what the hell's going on? So I switched the thing around. Now that uses a proximity detector. It doesn't use EMF. It uses basically a proximity detector. And it was going off like crazy by the sink. It just wouldn't stop. And then I moved it away a little bit, and it's still going off in that direction. Then I rotated it so that the red side was towards the sink, and that west side went on, off, on, off, and it wouldn't stop. And I was like, well, God, something's over here, maybe. And I was wondering, like a vortex or something. But anyway, I decided to move that yes/no detector to the living room floor, and just put my camera on it, and I'm filming it and stuff, and I'm starting to ask questions. Just if is anything there? Green light comes on, yes. And then I'm asking questions. Are you human? Red light, no. And it's just going on and on. I'm getting this incredible interaction. Well, Charles in the meantime had got his SLS detection or SLS camera, and he's walking through the house and not mapping anything. I mean, all through the house. But he came in the living room, and he sat in the chair next to me, about 4 feet away or 5 feet away, and he's filming the triangle on the floor with his SLS camera. And he's mapping a figure that's reaching out and triggering it at the same time as the responses are coming through. Wow. Yeah, I mean, so the correlation was amazing. I was like, whoa, this is really something. But I know what you mean, because, I mean, it'll just be, a lampshade, and suddenly there's a stick figure dancing on it. It's like, wow, I don't know. Is that what they're doing? I don't know.
Right. Is he using like an actual like device that's built, or is he just using the iPhone app?
No, he's using the device that's built.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Like, he's using a real device. Yeah,
yep, the Kinect
so
camera. Yep.
That's cool. Yeah, need to get my hands on one of those. So if anybody listening wants to donate one to Hometown Ghost Stories, you reach out to us. We give them.
We'll send you a T-shirt.
When we do our collaboration investigation, you bring that guy, or you bring his stuff. Okay.
Yeah, because if his name's Charles Howard Johnson, he must have hookups at hotels as well. Right.
I don't think it's the same family, but, still. Yeah, at least he can knock it off with the name, yeah. But, yeah.
If he goes by 3 names, he's got to be like a VIP member at different hotels and stuff. So,
or a serial killer.
Oh, he's an amazing guy. He's just I don't think I've ever met a kinder man. It's just, I've never even seen him angry in all the hours we've spent together. It's just, he's always just that same.
Not gonna lie, that's what people say about serial killers.
Well, he might have a point.
Rejected it.
Didn't see that coming.
Stay under the radar.
Yeah, exactly. We got another question from the chat. Eric Fry asked, you guys believe Tombstone is haunted or just a tourist trap?
Haunted as hell, bro.
Haunted.
Yeah. You've been judging by what we cover.
Say.
Well, we tried to go to Tombstone this year.
Yeah, I know.
I tried to make that happen, and we got no response because we would love to go and see. I think everything that's big sounds like a tourist trap.
Sure.
And that includes Tombstone. That includes
Conjuring House.
The Conjuring House, the Winchester House, you name it. And it sounds like a tourist trap because they're leaning into it.
Uh-huh.
But I think you have to take each individually and go and see what people are getting, what you're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to rule anything as a tourist trap anymore. I raise my eyebrow at some,
mm-hmm.
right? But until we actually go investigate it, I mean, Tombstone feels like just like any other place. I think there's hauntings everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe some of the hauntings that people say happen in Tombstone don't happen. I'm not going to say they do or don't, but I guarantee there are hauntings within Tombstone itself.
Yeah. Again, we talked. I was going to say we would have to visit it to really determine whether or not we really think it's haunted. But judging by the stories, I'd say yes. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Just saying, like outside looking in, right? Because we've never been there. But if you look at places that are very haunted and the reasons that they're very haunted, and you look at Tombstone, like how long was Tombstone a populated town for? A very short amount of time, and that was a ghost town. There weren't that many people that went through Tombstone and died there. So I think if you're talking about, because everyone's like, oh, Tombstone is the most haunted this, most haunted that. How many people have lived and died in these old cities in Europe, right? Like these are very haunted cities because so many people have lived there and died there. There's so much energy there. There's so much life and death there. And in Tombstone, it was a very short amount of time, very short amount of people. How haunted could it possibly be? That's what I would say. And I've never been there. So like these guys said, we don't know. We're just speculating. Sure. But for me, I would say it's probably not one of the most haunted places because how could it be?
Yeah. I think they probably are cashing in on the reputation for sure because hell, it's Tombstone. Everybody knows that name. You know,
It's called Tombstone, right?
Yeah, it is a cool name. And I mean, a lot of people they get kind of put off by haunted locations capitalizing on these things, but you got to keep in mind that they need to a lot of these places, they need to capitalize off this thing to keep the property afloat, right? So they need to restore the building. These are old houses and buildings and structures that need money. And if they aren't doing paranormal investigations and they don't have a merch shop set up, that money is not coming in, and the building is just going to fall apart until they bulldoze it, right? So, and we hate to see that. There's nothing worse than a haunted location that I got on the list of places I want to visit, and it all of a sudden either gets shut down or torn down because they didn't have the money to upkeep it. So while a lot of people are like, oh, they have a gift shop and everything, like, it's like, yeah, well, they should, because they need that money, and we need that place to stay upright. And so I'm all for it. You want to put a gift shop, you want to do a haunted attraction on Halloween, I say do it all. Just do whatever you got to do to keep these places built and keep them from getting shut down permanently, because I want to visit all of them.
But just let us investigate it on our own. Keep everyone else out when we're there. That's all I ask.
You just want the VIP. Yeah, I got you.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. This is going to conclude part 1 of this 2-part episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying it. And stay tuned, because part 2 will be coming out soon on our channel. So keep watching for that, and we'll see you next time. Get out! All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. And remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net. And that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal. And you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormalportal. Or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media, such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place, and we're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. Y'all take care, and remember, we love y'all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.